Good morning, Professor
Good
Donnie.
morning. How are you? How's the weather in Kingston today?
It's quite nice, very sunny. I'm not seeing any clouds in the sky, blue sky.
So when you had that dust cloud, were the Blue Mountains completely covered or mostly covered?
Yes, even the smaller mountains before that were,
Wow. Wow. That must
yeah,
have been pretty intense.
it was pretty bad.
So is the Faculties of Medical Sciences building completely closed, or do students have limited access? How's that working?
It's closed for now.
Okay. The University of Washington has led the nation here in developing clinical protocols to reopen dental school clinics amidst COVID-19, and they published a recent update, and I forwarded that to Professor Jones. Hopefully that'll help you guys along the way when you reintegrate back.
They're trying to see if we can open in August.
Really? Good, good. Yes, and we still haven't decided whether we're going to have students in person or not. And if we do they have to sit 6 feet apart? And do they have to wear masks in the classroom? So I don't know what we're gonna do. People are kind of confused. Our elementary schools or our public schools are supposed to open on August 12th. And right now the plan is for those little kids, even who are 6 years old, to wear masks all day. I don't think they can take it. I couldn't take it. So we'll see how those little urchins do in a situation like that where they have to wear masks. I would not like that, but maybe they'll tolerate it.
What about your dental students who have practical work to do? Are they able to see patients?
Right now, we're just now reintegrating our, we have graduate programs in perio, ortho, and so forth. And so the residents in those specialty programs have been seeing patients on a limited basis for, I think, 3 weeks now. And just now we're starting to open up the clinic to pre-doctoral students, who haven't gotten their dental degrees yet. And we've cut the capacity of our 2 large clinic rooms in half. So whereas normally we'd have 40 students on each side of our, we call them north and south clinics just because they're located north and south. but we're cutting those in half so that the capacity now will be 50%. So 20 students in each of those clinics with students assisting each other to hopefully cut down on aerosols. We bought a whole bunch of those aerosol units that sit next to the patient like a big vacuum cleaner and remove the aerosol. So I don't know, I think those will be available for most of the units. And then one of those 2 clinics will be non-aerosol procedures and one will be aerosol procedures. And we took about 2 weeks to train the students to put on and take off all the extra, PPE equipment and have individual masks, made for the students. And so they've gone through a whole bunch of training to how to put that on, how to take it off, and make sure it all fits well. So we're being cautious, but hopefully start seeing patients here this week and next. And like you, our students are anxious. They haven't been seeing patients. They haven't picked up hand pieces or done any work in the mouth for a very long time. So it'll be a slow re-entry. And so we're also keeping track of the number of COVID cases. We're in a county, like you have parishes there. In our county, we're still getting somewhere between 12 and 25 or 30 new COVID diagnosed cases every day. And so it's not going away. So we got to be quite careful. So I think I'm sharing our Facebook page here, UE Dental Practice Management 2020. Wish we could all be here today, but we're not. So we are where we are. Let's see. I'll show you some items at the side. I had mentioned to you the website Grow Practice Grow, and Sean Hamill, who has very simple tips on how to create your own video content that parallels what Dr. Holmes was talking about. He has a website page or a Facebook page, the Art of Dental Marketing. If you want to join that, you sure can. Obviously don't have to, but that's sitting here for you. And my wife took a picture of me. There I am in the basement with shorts on. This is Zoom, right? I got sandals, shorts, and a shirt, and there's where I'm teaching from every morning. And let's see, there's Kira Dent's Consulting. I wanted to make clear to you guys that she's rebranded her business to a different name. So it's now the Dental A Team, and there she is. So she joined us. This organization here, I'm not trying to overwhelm you with information, I'm just trying to give you resources. So you can always hop on this Facebook page and see this down the road. This organization is, the name is adcpa.org. This is the the Association of Dental Certified Public Accountants. So these are accountants who specialize in dental practices. That's their whole livelihood and that's their whole business. So they understand the numbers associated with dental practices probably better than any other set of accountants anywhere. So if you're ever in the States, or you can even hop on their website now if you wanted to, but they can really help make a practice as efficient and effective as possible. So you might want to take a look at that sometime. I had mentioned in another class, I think it may have been Monday or Tuesday, when I showed you that map of people's practice, where we had cyber attacks going across the nation and across the oceans and attacking everybody. This is a really good firm, Medix Dental. They help specialize in setting up IT systems and practice security systems and data privacy. And in fact, they were kind. They donated to me some policies for your staff related to information systems. And I've posted some of those on RVLE, and I have that on our schedule next week to just kind of show you what's there. We're not going to go through it like a PowerPoint. I just want to show you what the resources are. So they donated those. And there again is your medical sciences building. First day of class, I showed you the Unthanked Design Group, all those beautiful pictures of those beautiful dental offices. So I put that website on here on the Facebook as well. This is Dr. Clean's dental practice here in Lincoln, Capital Dental. Here's Dr. Clean's website, in case you didn't write that down. And I think if you click there, he has some free forms, like for spreadsheets. One of those is actually on RVLE as a supplemental thing for you too. Our guest speaker tomorrow, David Harris. This is his website. So he will be going through the strategies that thieves use to steal from dental practices. Most of that stealing occurs by staff, although sometimes dentists steal from each other. So that happens too. So I think you'll be very interested to see what that looks like. And, you know, we're not talking here about pencils and paper clips. We're talking tens of thousands. I mean, in some cases, he's arrested and eventually had prosecuted staff who stole $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 from dental practices over the years. So that's a big issue. So you've worked really, really hard, and you're working hard now to become a dentist. You don't want people to then go in your back pocket and start stealing from you and not be aware of it. So he'll talk with you about that. And this is Dr. Costas. He'll speak next week. So this is his Dental Success Institute. You may notice there's a heavy influence of Dr. Costas in this course and the people with whom he has worked, including Kira Dent and Addison Clean. So these people in this practice management consulting arena have very supportive relationships with one another and network well with each other. And there's Dr. Holmes and her website, Delivering Wow. There's a picture of Bull Bay I put on there. Has nothing to do with dentistry, but it's pretty. And
participate in the campaign.
I put a little clip from Dr. Holmes on here from the other day. I forgot to take a clip of Kira Dent. I got so wrapped up in what she was saying, I forgot to take a still shot like I did here of Dr. Holmes and a short clip to upload. But anyway, so there's the website, some additional resources for you going down the road if you want to join us there or have that available to you. So our agenda for today, we'll go through a PowerPoint on the economy. That'll probably take us 30 minutes or so. After we do that, I'm going to ask you to take a quick glance at your Q7 results. And I do this with our students here, and I've done this with students there every time I've taught this course. You know, you forecast some original simulation goals, and it's good when you forecast goals to then kind of see how you're doing. And so I have a one-page document for each practice to complete. Probably won't take you more than 20 minutes or so. And to sweeten the deal, I decided this morning that I'll have you complete those as a Word document and then send them to me, and I don't know if I'll print them off or just look at them as electronic documents. But anyway, I will give each practice up to $3,000 bonus money in the simulation based on how well you complete that document. Doesn't enter into your course as a grade, but it'll help your practice a little bit with some extra money. So we'll do that. And what I'm going to ask you to do on that document is fairly simple. I'm just going to say, you've forecasted a lot of goals. What are some goals you think you're going to achieve? Do you have a couple of goals you don't think you're going to achieve? And then going forward, identify like 3 main strategies you're going to try to implement to take your practice to the finish line. So we'll do that. And then after that, we'll have consults like we always do, where you'll review your decisions and make new ones for the next quarter. This will be quarter 8, right? And so I will be computing taxes today. So hold your breath to see what those are going to look like. I don't know, but my guess is each of your practices, since you're making pretty good money, will owe money in taxes, maybe $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, but you'll know that in advance and have a quarter to position your cash to make sure you've got enough money to pay that. So that's kind of what we're doing today. First of all, we'll talk about the economy. So I was looking up before class today. You were all too young and you weren't born yet. But in the 1990s in the United States, then George W. Bush, the senior George Bush, who just died, I think, within the last year, was president of the United States. He was a Republican. The opposition running against him was Bill Clinton. I'm sure you've heard of Bill and Hillary, right? And Bill Clinton's strategist in the presidential campaign came up with this statement because it seemed like President Bush at the time was oblivious, blind, numb to the fact that so many people in our nation were hurting because of the economy. And so James Carville, a very, very sharp political strategist, came up with this phrase, and the phrase was, "It's the economy, stupid," saying that about the then President Bush. You know, get a grip. Economy is important. You got to understand the economy and its impact on people. And so this particular PowerPoint is particularly important for us today because of COVID-19 and what has happened, you know, to dental practices when the economy just went down to nothing in practices. Many of them actually closed their doors for a while, or maybe just seeing emergency patients that are now just getting up to snuff again and starting to rebound. So again, background information, this is posted on RVLE and also on the simulation website if you want to read up about these basic concepts, so understand something or want to get something clarified. So microeconomics is how an individual buyer or seller makes decisions. So if you have a birthday and you want to celebrate a birthday and go out to dinner with your family, you got to decide where you're going to go out and have dinner. So where are you going to go? I don't know where you're going to go. You could go to TGIF. You could go to Kentucky Fried Chicken. You could go to Pizza Hut. You could go to something a little higher scale restaurant, but that's microeconomics. Macroeconomics is how the whole economy is acting and reacting. This would include things like inflation and how it impacts. Unemployment number would be a macroeconomic issue. And as you probably are aware, you know, our unemployment was at absolute historic record lows for all people groups, for all demographics across our whole nation. The employment rate had never been better until COVID-19. And then smack, you know, my son, who's an assistant manager at a restaurant before he hopefully gets into an accelerated nursing program here, you know, he lost his job. He had to go on unemployment. The restaurant is closed, right? So unemployment went from our state, like from 4%, which is incredibly low, lowest in the nation, to like 18%. And now it's back down. But that's an issue of macroeconomics. So microeconomics is the individual firm, the person, the business, and how that business responds in the economy. There are type of economic goods. One is a public consumption good. And so a public consumption good would be, for example, electrical service. When you go to plug in your smartphone or your iPhone, is there power? Does it charge? I think I mentioned last year we were on the UE campus when the power switch took over, and the first Saturday that we were there, I mean, the power was out from like, I don't know, 9 in the morning till 7 at night. And that was a hot day in that apartment in Aqueduct Flats. But that's a public consumption. Bus service, train services owned by the government, those are all public consumption goods. Private consumption goods, on the other hand, are things like grocery stores or automobiles, those kinds of issues, those kinds of things that you can purchase. The economics of dental care are impacted by the supply of dentists or other healthcare professionals or oral healthcare professionals, and also the demand for dental services. And so much of the rest of this PowerPoint is going to explore this issue of supply and demand related to dental services. So the law of demand says that as the price of any good goes down, how much of that good people are willing to purchase increases. In other words, if, for example, McDonald's starts having a special, which they haven't, but if they had a special and their hamburgers were 50 cents instead of $1.25, all of a sudden people are going to want to go buy hamburgers and put them in the refrigerator for the next 2 weeks, right? Or freeze them. The opposite is also true. As the price increases, people want less and less of it. So if all of a sudden McDonald's increased that burger to $2.50, not very many people are going to buy it. So this is an inverse relationship. As one factor or variable gets larger, the other one gets smaller. You've all heard of this concept of supply and demand. So let's talk about the supply of dental services. Believe it or not, dentists kind of have a monopoly on dental services. That's true in Jamaica. That's true in the United States. And what do I mean by a monopoly? What I mean by monopoly is that there just aren't very many providers, limited number of providers. And those providers, there's a steep barrier to enter that market. Steep barriers, let's talk about that. Debt for you right now. The stress of not being able to get back into the clinic. The stress of being in the clinic once you're back in it. Those are steep barriers. I mean, your 5-year program is grueling. It's grueling for our students. It's grueling for everybody. And so limited number of providers, and it just costs a lot personally and financially to become a dentist. So that's a steep barrier to enter the market. Individual practitioners face a competitive marketplace, depending especially on where they're practicing. For example, in Omaha, Nebraska, which is our largest metropolitan city of about 500,000, there's a dental school. In Lincoln, Nebraska, metropolitan area where I'm at, of about 300,000, and a dental school. So the marketplace in Lincoln and Omaha is just saturated with dentists. All right. But if you're willing to drive 2 hours outside of those cities, I could put you in a rural practice in a small community with much, much less competition. So where you're at here makes a big difference. So there are significant regulatory pressures to keep the existing supply as it is. So education is an issue. How many dental schools are out there? And I keep warning our dental school students, and I don't think this is probably going to affect Jamaica as much, but here in the United States, in the late 1980s and early 1990s, you may not know this, but a lot of dental schools closed. Northwestern University, a very prestigious Big Ten school, closed its dental school because people thought there were too many dentists. St. Louis University, a private Catholic school in St. Louis, Missouri, closed its dental school during that time. And so I've been around long enough in education to see that this is like a roller coaster where people overreact and then underreact. And now the overreaction is since about 2012 or 13, now we're expanding all these new dental schools. I mean, we've opened like 6 to 10 dental schools in the United States in the last 10 or 12 years. And I can guarantee you, if that keeps up, we're going to have too many dentists sooner rather than later. And I've told my school students at some point, this rubber band of supply and demand is going to get stretched, and there are going to be so many dentists that at some point it's going to snap, and then it's going to contract again, and then there will be a move to close dental schools. So I would predict it, even in my life, in the next 10 years, that's going to snap, and then we're going to start closing schools again. And the fact that we've opened so many dental schools also doesn't account for the fact that all the class sizes in most dental schools have also increased, which is like increasing another 10 dental schools, even though new ones haven't opened. And so, for example, our Jesuit sister dental school, Creighton University in Omaha, has gone from a class size of 85 to a class size of 115. So that's an increase of 30 dentists just in that one school, and many colleges of dentistry have done that. So that my prediction is it's going to create an oversupply of dentists over time. There are always issues of licensure in the states. There's a national movement to move away from live patient exams for licensure. I think that will probably happen in my lifetime. But right now, lots of different people speak into licensures. States speak into licensures. There are regional testing boards. Don't you guys have in your clinic people from the Northwest Regional Board come down and give you board exams? I think you do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, because I know someone who goes down there. His name is Mert Aksu from the University of Detroit Mercy, a friend of mine. So that's an issue. So in other words, if I pass a licensure exam in Maine, in the state of Maine, will that license transfer to Nebraska? Some of those things are reciprocated and some are not. And so for years, it's been very hard to get a license, for example, in Texas or Nevada. So different states are playing in this, as well as those regional examining institutions. And, you know, all this impacts practice profitability. How many dentists are out there? What's the share of the pie that they might be able to participate in? I decreased this number last couple of years when I updated this. Still in the United States, probably around 70% of dentists are in solo practices, but over time, group practices are growing and growing because they cannot compete with larger group practices. It's much more efficient to have two dentists working in the same office with staggered hours, right? Paying one rent, one utility bill, than to have two different offices with all those additional costs. So my guess is over time, this number is going to continue to drop. It's my guess is in the next 10 years, this may be 50 or 60% as dentists combine in group practices with two dentists, 5 dentists or more, maybe in multiple locations. Right now, still most dentists are general practitioners, right? About 87%. So fewer specialty practices, as you would guess. Individual practitioner productivity varies greatly based on age. The retirement age here of dentists retiring has gone up 1 year every year for the last, I don't know, decade or so. And so the average retirement age of a dentist is now 72. You're all young. I mean, I'm 62, and I can't imagine doing the grueling work of a dentist even part-time at age 72, but a lot of people are continuing to do that. And COVID-19, if they were 70 and they were going to retire, they're probably not going to retire now because they want to build up again their retirement account, which is what happened in the recession of 2008 and 9. Same thing happened. People ready to retire, lost money in the stock market, and decided to continue to work. What's the value of an education, you know, for dental students? Hopefully there's a good return on your investment there. What are your personal interpersonal skills relating to patients, your business skills? What are your personal tastes and desires? Do you want to work a 50-hour week, or is 32 looking good enough for you for how you want to live? What kind of auxiliary personnel are there to assist you? And how can technology help you maybe be more productive? This is an important issue as you look for an associateship position down the road. I just got an email this morning from the class president of our junior dental class, or D3s, who are just about to become D4s, which here is their last year of dental school. And he wanted to know what the average associate generates in production in a year. And I said, I don't know, because I don't know what the answer to that is. I said, maybe 400,000, maybe 350, something like that. But he was looking at a contract where he's getting paid on the basis of production. Well, if you're going to get paid on the basis of a percentage of your production, say 30%, you kind of have to know what's reasonable, what you could expect to earn if you're getting a percentage. Demand for dental services. There's an increase in the educational level of the population, at least here in the States, and I assume there too in Jamaica. This was true up until COVID. we had a thriving economy. People had disposable income. What do I mean by disposable income? Disposable income is money that you don't have to pay every month just to pay your bills. So after you pay for your rent or your mortgage and your food and for your gasoline and your utilities and all these things that you have to pay, hopefully there's a leftover amount. Well, that's disposable income. It's not budgeted. It's above and beyond. It's extra. And then the more of that there is, the more people are likely to go to dental care and other things. There's also been an increase in third-party coverage. That's taken a hit too. In other words, people lose their jobs and the job had dental insurance and they lose their job. Well, they don't have insurance anymore. So that we'll see how that rebounds. Rural location versus urban. This is much more lucrative in the States. I'm not sure whether that's true in Jamaica or not. A friend of mine, Dr. Heller, I've mentioned him before because I showed you the PowerPoints he had given you for financial policies and his recommended policies for making financial arrangements with patients. But he says, in comparing rural dentists to dentists who practice in the city, dentists who practice here retire 5 years earlier than people who work in the city. And the people who work here, when they retire, have twice as much net wealth, like retirement accounts, property, than people who work in the city. The costs of practicing in a rural location are much lower. The real estate is lower, right? The cost of hiring staff is lower. And so people here tend to have higher profit levels compared to their city counterparts. Hopefully there's an increased consciousness of health in terms of fitness, diet, and other issues that affect health that are listed here, and an increased awareness of dental health overall. So all of these things would drive up demand. We have an aging population in the United States, older Americans living longer, more teeth that are at risk. A lot of those people are retiring with disposable income to pay for that care. The kicker is that to counter that, utilization. So that's the same concept as you're looking at every quarter in your simulation. What's the capacity utilization? It's 82% this quarter, it's 90 this quarter, oh, it's 100. I need to create more patient visits by increasing my hours, adding operatories and staff. So utilization, how many people are going to the dentist, has actually declined or been stagnant in the United States since the Great Recession of 2008 and 9. That level has never recovered. So that's, a huge issue in terms of the demand for dental services. According to the ADA's department, they have a Health Policy Institute. According to their data, in the first quarter of 2020, the dental industry had finally recovered and maybe even exceeded where it was in 2008 and 9, and then COVID hit, and then bam, we're back down to low levels of utilization. And so right now, probably only about 35% of the population of your main adult cohort between ages 18 and 64 go to the dentist every year, about 35%. Prior to the Great Recession of 2008 and 9, that number was 51%. And if you do the math, it's like 25 million fewer dental appointments now, like in 2019 than would have occurred in 2007. That's a lot of dentistry. Insurance and government programs for the needy are reimbursing less in the last 5 years. So insurance companies, instead of maybe in a PPO getting 80%, are saying, nope, not going to do that, doing 75%. So I put in the email yesterday for your simulation update that the Medicaid reimbursement will drop from 65 to 55% in year 3. That's still 5% higher than it should be. So I'm still giving you a 5% reimbursement for Medicaid, more than the average, which is about 50%. States are scrambling for money to pay for Medicaid and Medicare on the national level. And so those numbers are just continuing to increase. They hardly ever have an inflation adjustment. So they just get worse year after year in terms of the percentage of the procedure that's covered. So this is just a graphic that shows the decline in spending for dental care. And this was taken right after the recession of 2008-9. You can see these numbers are going down, what people are spending on dental care. And my goodness, if we had a graph here for the second quarter of 2020, that graph, you know, would just be plummeting down like this because people were only going to the dentist for emergency care to get out of pain or because of a swelling issue. Here's just a graph on the concept of supply and demand. Hopefully there's a middle ground where the supply of dentists and the demand for services kind of overlap. And so that's one of the reasons if you look at a fee chart for a certain city, some people will have higher fees, some people will have lower fees, but they're going to kind of be clustered, you know, in a certain area. For example, in Lincoln, Nebraska, periodic exams, a 6-month recall, a recare, or perio maintenance exam is probably going to be between $40 and $55. It's going to cluster, you know, in this area. Same is going to be true for a 2-surface amalgam. You know, it's going to cluster maybe between $130 on the low end and $170 on the high end. It's going to be in this sweet spot where supply and demand meet. So if you're going to charge $500 for a 2-surface amalgam in Lincoln, you're not going to have many takers. I mean, people are going to pay for that because the price would just be outrageous. Or if you're going to charge $110 for a regular 6-month exam, people aren't going to be willing to pay that because, again, it's outside of this cluster where supply and demand meet. Insurance has an influence here. Insurance tends to increase the demand for dental services, and we'll talk about that. Without insurance, people are just less likely to go to the dentist because they may not be able to afford it. What does the economic future of dental practice look like? Supply and demand is considerations. We've got to take a look at the overall economy and what's happening with that. I think Dr. Colleen mentioned to you, he was thankful to heaven above that you are not graduating this year, and I agree. Hopefully this whole COVID thing will be resolved and be done with via a vaccine or whatever else can manage that so that when you graduate, you'll have a better economy to enter into, specifically the dental economy and clinics that you can work in. There are always employer benefit issues. Employers like to give people the choice of what benefits they have, and they're called cafeteria style benefits. So in the simulation, you're just saying, okay, I'm going to give the staff $400 in benefits every quarter. Well, where I work at the university, it's like a buffet of benefits that's spread out before me. I get to choose, I want this, I want this, I want this. If I want that, I got to pay more for it. If I don't choose that, I don't have to pay anything for it. And so you get to choose what you want. In my case, it's just a standard dental plan, but for the other benefits, you get to choose. There's a decreased use of dental benefits as a bargaining chip when you're recruiting people. Dental benefits have gone away for a lot of people and haven't recovered since the Great Recession of the early 2000s or 2008-9. And there's a possible elimination of the tax deductibility of dental benefits and other healthcare expenses. In other words, it used to be that you could set aside a certain amount of money pre-tax to pay for your healthcare, and all that money that you spent on healthcare and you have to document it was pre-tax. With the Affordable Care Act, that dollar amount went from like $3,800 a year for a family down to like $2,200, and so people are having to pay taxes on that difference, which they didn't have to before, and so that may make a difference in terms of how much people are willing to spend on dentistry. And there are also changes in third-party payers. That's the dental insurance. Generally, over time, there's more saturation of third-party payers in the marketplace. I think right now in the United States, that's around 65%. You know, in the simulation, you're at 54% involved in Medicaid, PPO, capitation. If I was going to give you a market reflective of the United States, it'd be 65%. In other words, only 35% of the population are true full paying patients. If I was going to give you a market that reflects what's in my city of Lincoln, Nebraska, that would probably be 75 or 80% of patients are insurance patients. So you'd have to almost take insurance here as a preferred provider, in those plans, in order to have enough patients to make your practice viable. There's a changing role of paraprofessionals, what hygienists are allowed to do or not do. There are dental therapist programs. This is especially large in Alaska and Minnesota, where there are mid-level providers doing simple restorative procedures without direct dentist supervision in the office. This might just be done through telehealth. In other words, the mid-level provider would be working by herself in the clinic, maybe send an image of the restoration of the tooth they're going to restore, and the x-rays, the dentist would say, go for it, do it, and then they do the prep and finish it, and then just show the dentist the final result. But the dentist isn't sitting there watching them do that procedure. Expanded duty dental assistants make a big difference in terms of the state where you may be practicing. For example, we just now in Nebraska have expanded duty dental assistants. It took 10 years for that legislation to get passed. Some people were against it, some people were for it. But in the state of Colorado, they've had expanded duty dental assistants for a long, long time. And what that means in Colorado is that the dentist goes in and preps the tooth, leaves the room, and the dental assistant restores it with material, checks occlusion. The doctor comes in and says, yeah, that looks like a restored tooth, and the patient leaves. So the dentist isn't actually sitting there packing amalgam or placing composite or checking occlusion. Someone else is doing that. And so you can imagine if you have a practice like that, you could get a lot more work done as a dentist because you're prepping, somebody else is doing the restoring. In the United States, there's an evolving two-tiered system, large efficient operations with multiple dentists in one location. So I said that probably in the next 10 years or whatever, the number of private dentists and solo practices will probably drop from right now 70 to 75%, maybe to 55 or 60%. That's because of the rise of multiple dentists in one location and the rise of dental service organizations, DSOs. There's an entire chapter in the book, Transition, on DSOs, what those are, what they look like. And I'm telling you, these DSOs, so DSO would be like Heartland Dental, Midwest Dental, Pacific Dental Services, Aspen Dental. They are a very aggressive group, and they market, and they have really good business systems for billing patients and so forth, and they are really seizing market share. Like in the simulation, you're vying against each other for patients and against Dr. Old, and you're looking at your individual demand number. I mean, if we were going to give these DSOs an individual demand number in the marketplace in the simulation, their numbers are like 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. They are just tearing it up. So it changes the whole landscape. The one dentist cottage industry is still going to exist, especially in rural areas of small towns where there's no need for more than one dentist, for example. This is kind of a scary graph from 2009 that shows that graduates from the years 1998 through 2001 earned considerably more than new graduates in 2005 through 7. And I would suppose that's probably still the case. That may be a function of the overall economy and the supply of dentists. Now, having said they earn less, they're still making a good living. You look at this is in US dollars, so it's not like they're hurting. Talk about macroeconomics, gross national product. You've probably heard that phrase. So this is like just a giant calculation of how the overall economy of a nation is doing. You look at how many goods people are consuming. Durable goods would be like a washing machine, refrigerator, dishwasher. That's a durable good. Non-durable goods would be food, you eat it and it's gone. clothing. So you get a big formula of how much people are consuming, how much businesses are investing in inventory, how much they're investing in plants. Like, is Amazon going to open up another distribution center? That would be considered a plant, or could be literally a manufacturing plant, but it's broader than that. How much people are investing in equipment? So how many dentists are adding cone beams? How many new houses? You'll hear a statistic on new housing starts. So that's a big issue here. What's the investment look like in the economy? What's the government doing in terms of spending? You may have heard that the United States government gave every taxpayer $1,200 US as a response to COVID-19 and people losing their job and hoping to stimulate the economy. That was one of those decisions where President Trump and Congress actually agreed on. So you got to realize we kind of printed that money, as we do often, and going into more and more debt. But you know, it was nice to get that check. My wife and I got a check for $2,400 and we didn't do anything except pay taxes last year. Net exports. How much are you exporting versus what are you importing? So there's that number. So you combine all those things, and this gives you an idea of how the overall economy is doing with this gross national product. You want that number to be growing, probably not too fast, but steady growth there is good. It's often used as an overall gauge of how healthy the economy looks. Talk about a little bit about the business cycle. The model of the general economy characterizes typical phases of the business activity, what's going on overall. It allows prediction of financial markets based on economic conditions. And so you'll remember posted on RVLE was an economic forecast. That is a business cycle, right? And so I gave you a graph, and the graph for the simulation looked like this. And then in this quarter, it kind of paused and went down a little bit in Q7, and then it's going to bounce back up and continue to go up. So that is an economic cycle over 3 years in the simulation. So that's what it can look like, the economy. And then here you got gross national product, how it's doing. It could expand, it could peak out, then it's going to drop during a recession, get to a low point, and then hopefully recover. And so people are discussing, you know, what is the recovery of COVID-19 going to look like as a business cycle? Some people say it's going to look like this, like a V, down, 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 bottoms out, then it's going to rebound like this. Other people say, no, it's going to look more like a W, go down, 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 then it's going to go up. Uh-oh, then we're going to have another phase 2, then it's going to go down, and then it's going to recover. So all those speculations are around what that business cycle is going to look like. And of course, people are making business decisions based on that. If I don't think the economy is going to recover, I'm not going to invest a lot, right? Because in new equipment and hiring staff, because I'm just going to have to sell it or fire the staff if I don't need them. Some key summary points for the economy. The broader economy of the nation usually shapes the local economy of a given area or city. So the better the economy of Jamaica is doing generally, the better the economy is going to be in White House, Jamaica, in Kingston, Jamaica, in Ocho, in Negril, right? If the whole economy in Jamaica is doing well, those individual cities are likely to do better. From an economic standpoint, the primary drivers or causes of demand for dental services are dental insurance benefits, whether those are private or government sponsored. There's been quite a bit of research around this. Let me ask you this question. Do you suppose having dental benefits is a bigger impact on whether people go to the dentist or dental fear? Anybody want to hazard a guess?
Dental benefits?
Yeah, good answer, Caroline. so the primary driver is dental benefits. Dental benefits influence whether people go to the dentist more than fear does. Fear is number 2, right? It's important. People don't go to the dentist because they're afraid, no question. But on a statistical basis, this is a bigger driver of whether people go to the dentist compared to relatively fear. And disposable income from an economic standpoint. So setting fear aside, these are the primary drivers. If I get care done, will the dental insurance pay for most of it, which is this? And do I have disposable income to pay for the dentistry? Or maybe I can make financial arrangements with the dentist and have disposable income to make the payments with the local bank there in Jamaica to get my care done. And the consumer decides what is most important, dental services or something else or anything else. So really, in the background information on the economy that's posted on our VLE and on the simulation website, I think Dr. Willis talks about the fact that as a dentist, you're competing against big screen TVs. You're competing against the most latest iPhone. Whatever money people have that's disposable of above and beyond what they have to live on, you're competing against those things too, as well as against other dentists. I want to talk just for a second, because this has become a crisis in our nation. 2 million, there were 2 million US emergency room visits attributed to issues with teeth in 2016. And those emergency visits cost $1.6 billion. That's a lot of money, and that's a lot of emergency room visits associated with teeth. So those patients probably for the most part don't have a dental home. Remember I said a lot of people haven't been going to the dentist. So if they call the dentist and then want to see a dentist, the dentist may say, well, you're not a patient of record, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, and I don't want to go see you now. So they may end up in the ER. Generally speaking, ERs in the United States are not equipped or staffed to handle dental emergencies in most cases. Most ERs don't have a dentist on staff or even on call, let alone a dental operatory. And so the treatment often involves, you got an infected tooth, we'll give you an antibiotic so that that infection doesn't spread and threaten your life. So often that involves giving antibiotics. And then for many, many years, it involved giving pain medication, narcotics, right? And then that contributed to what? The rise of abuse and addiction of codeine in its various forms, or other kinds of medication. So this is a healthcare issue here we really haven't solved. I know we've talked with a couple of ERs in the city about maybe having some kind of a partnership. That hasn't come to fruition. Maybe someday it will, but it would be good if that happened. Just a quick word about dental insurance. We're almost done here. Employers contract with a business or a company to offer dental benefits. Sometimes dental benefits or dental insurance gets a bad rap. In other words, dentists say, I hate dental insurance. I don't want to have to take dental insurance. I don't want to work with dental insurance. Well, employers get what they pay for. You can get really, really bad dental insurance that almost covers nothing and that reimburses the dentist at really, really low levels. You can also get very, very exceptionally good dental insurance that covers lots of procedures, but that costs the employer and the employees much more higher monthly premium because they're paying for better services. So dental insurance is all over the map here. Some very, very poor plans, some really, really good plans. So benefits usually have limits in terms of procedures. For example, few dental plans cover dental implants right now at all. Why? Because employers don't want to pay the insurance company to have a plan that will cover implants. It'll cost them more, and it'll then cost the employee, who has to pay a portion of that benefit, that dental insurance. They have to pay for some of that every month, and they may not want to pay for it. So I know insurance companies are working on that, but right now, for the most part, they don't cover implants. They have annual limits of coverage, such as $2,500 a year. So, that's, you get an exam and a couple crowns, and x-rays, you pretty much wiped out your benefits for the year in many plans. But that's a lot of dentistry, full series of x-rays, a couple of exams, a couple of prophies, and a couple of crowns. That's a fair amount of dentistry. Insurance companies and benefits pay for different percentages for different dental services. They pay more for preventative services such as exams and x-rays, and they pay less for major services such as endo and crown and bridge. So in a typical dental insurance plan in the States, you're only going to get 50% coverage for endo. So if that root canal on a molar is $1,000, the total benefit the insurance will pay is $500. Then the patient is going to have to come up with the other $500. Same if you had like a bridge, 3-unit bridge, and it's $1,500, the insurance would pay $750. The patient would have to come up with the other $750. Although it's better to have somebody to pay half than none, right? Okay, so that's kind of an overview of economy. Questions related to that from anybody? Our PowerPoint tomorrow will be much shorter and simpler. And we have David Harris speaking tomorrow, so that works out well that we have a shorter PowerPoint so that he has plenty of time to speak with you and you can answer or ask questions that you may have of him. Your incident for quarter 8 relates to a minor patient who is pregnant. By minor, I mean she's not of age as to be qualified as an adult. And you know she's pregnant, and then the mother is there, and then are you going to tell the mother or not? And what does that look like? Kind of a difficult situation for a dentist to be in. And again, that was a situation that Dr. Willis himself or somebody he knows encountered. So for that incident, you'll take a look at the incident, just drop in the drop-down menu on advanced on the simulation website, or you can look at it in the manual in chapter 7, and it's listed there for incident 8 for quarter 8. So one of the resources I had suggested you may want to consider is the Levin Dental Consulting Group, LEVIN. They have it during the business days, Monday through Friday. They have a practice management tip every day. And sometimes there's just an uncanny coincidence between what's happening in class on a given day and what the tip was today. And the tip that I got in my email from Dr. Levin today was reevaluate what your goals are in your practice amidst what's going on in the economy and COVID-19. And I already had planned for you today to do exactly that in the simulation. So this document, Reviewing Simulation Goals Between Quarters 7 and 8, is posted on RVLE. I believe it's the first document. I updated this yesterday. I think it's the first document under topic 3 for the course. So pull that document up and open it. And I would like your practices to go ahead and meet virtually here, remotely with each other, and complete this document together by having a little meeting. You'll want to first review your quarter 7 results. I would recommend you do a few things. I would have this document open, reviewing simulation goals between quarters 7 and 8. I would have your summary report that I posted for quarter 7, bring that up, because you'll be able to see really quickly what it looks like for your gross production and your net production and your collections and your other goals, where you're at with your loan balance and so on. And then, and this is going to be one of those situations where it'd be nice to have hard copies, I would also bring up your electronic copy of your original plan, where you forecasted new patient visits and forecasted total patient visits in quarter 12. You've got like 12 numbers in there, whatever it is that you forecasted. So what I want you to do is just take a little bit of time, review quarter 7 results, look at your summary report. What does the trend look like for those key variables in your plan, and compare them to your original goals. And then identify 2 original goals, and you might have more than 2. You might have 5 that you're going to meet or exceed. I just want you to look at your plan and say, okay, it looks like we're on track to meet these goals. For example, our new patient visits every quarter have been over 100. We forecasted we're going to have 95 new patients in quarter 12. We should easily meet new patient numbers. So that might be line item 1. Line item 2, you may have said, you know, we're going to have a gross production of 200,000 in quarter 12, and you're already at 220 for gross production. You say, well, we're already past that. We're definitely going to meet that goal. Not only are we going to meet it, we've already exceeded it. So just kind of look at your goals, identify 2 that you are on track to meet or exceed, or maybe you've already exceeded those. And when you answer these things, include numbers, right? We forecasted X and we're at Y. We forecasted 190 in net production. We're already at 210. So clearly we're going to meet that goal. So include numbers as you fill this out. And then look at your original goals that may have difficulty achieving by quarter 12. Maybe you could look at your overhead. You know, what does it look like? Take your total costs divide total costs into your collections, and that'll give you a percentage of overhead. If you had total costs of 100,000 and you had total collections of 200,000, your overhead's already at 50%. Take 100 into 200. And that maybe you've already exceeded your overhead projection, or maybe your overhead's much higher than you projected it would be. And you could say, well, we're going to have to really become more efficient to reach that. So identify a goal that you may have difficulty in achieving. Most of you had pretty reasonable goals, I think, for your loan balance, but that, especially now that you're paying it off, some students or some practices may have difficulty with that one. You may not have anything here. Maybe you look at your results and you say, you know, we think we're going to meet everything that we said that we were going to meet. That's okay too, if that's the truth. So just give me an idea where you're at here. One of the goals that's kind of difficult to interpret, and that's what this first paragraph is about, is your managed care goals. For example, if you said you were going to be at 40% PPO and you're only going to be at 30%, that's really exceeding your goal because you're not having to rely on discounted patients, discounted fee paying, they're not full paying patients. So that really is, even though the goal was 40, if you're at 30, that's really a good thing. You've really exceeded your goal. What wouldn't be good if you forecasted to be at 40% PPO and it looks like you're going to be at 60. Well, then that wouldn't be necessarily a good outcome because you're having all those adjustments for those lower fees that you're getting in terms of reimbursement. Then lastly, identify 3 strategies you plan to implement in the last 4 quarters. I mean, if this is a horse race, we're turning around the last curve here. You know, we only got 4 rounds of decisions to make. So what do you think you can do, given what's going on in the market, to really take your practice to the finish line? This is really, it may relate back up here to the goals, but I mean, if you've already met or exceeded most of your goals, it's like, how can we do even better than we thought we could? Maybe we're going to increase advertising to make sure we keep our individual demand ratio above a 1, or maybe we're going to increase this $2,000 a quarter every quarter. Maybe we're going to test the market. We're going to be bold and we're going to take our fees from, and you could use the numbers or a percentage, you could say, we're going to take our fees from the current level of $1,180 and we're just going to increase them $100 per quarter and we're going to see what happens. I mean, you may do something wild like that. So tell me what you're thinking here, what strategies you're going to implement, for the rest of the game. I'm probably going to keep the parameters of the game mostly the same. The economy is going to continue to do well. So you can anticipate that. We're at a low point right now. When we looked at that business cycle, we're down here and it's going to start rebounding. So keep that in mind. I've set the competitiveness level in the marketplace now at a level 6 out of 10, which means it's pretty competitive. Your practices may be kind of plateauing. You've all grown really well and you're still making really good profits, all of you. So what can you do to maybe tweak the system and become more and more successful as we end the simulation? Anybody have any questions about what I'm asking you to do here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm just going to stay on the Zoom meeting, the general meeting. If you have a question that's specific to your practice as you complete this, then just private chat me. If it's a generic question that anybody may want an answer to, you can just ask it generally of everybody. So what we'll do, let's say it's 9:05. I think you can get this done probably, I'm thinking 30 minutes. I don't think it will take longer than that. So again, I will give your practice bonus money, which I can do under your miscellaneous expense charge on your expenses. Instead of being an expense, I'll give you your practice up to $3,000 depending on how well you do here in completing this, so that going into quarter 8, you should have a little bit of bonus money, maybe another $1,500 or $2,000 or $2,500 in cash that you weren't counting on as I give that bonus money to you in quarter 8. All right, so I'll check in with everybody like at 9:30. When you're done with this document, please save it as either a PDF or as a Word document and just email it to me. And then I'll take a look at those either maybe this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon, try to get that feedback to you certainly before we make the last 3 decisions in the simulation, quarters 10, 11, 12, but hopefully I'll get it to you tomorrow. So I'll just stay on here. Let me take a break here. I warm up my coffee, but I'll be here and then check in with you around 9:30, 9:35, something like that. See if you need any more time. And then what we'll do is we'll switch gears and we'll do our regular consults like we have been doing in the breakout rooms. We'll reverse the order again today. So some days we start with practice 1, some days we start with practice 5. So we'll start with practice 5 today, Gervais, and we'll work for the other groups. I would anticipate, even with this exercise, we should be done, I would think, by 11 today, maybe earlier, 11:15, somewhere in there. All right. So have at it. If you have questions, private chat me or ask the whole group.